Testing 1 2 3. Testing 4 6 7 8. Testing 4 6 7 8. It's been a while, or even a minute, for me to even actually try to create content for the Brush Your T-shirt show, which was an idea I had when I was back in grad school at KU Leuven back in 2020 during the pandemic, when I was basically locked in my room and forced to take a once physical course online and was freaking out and losing my mind while in there. However, one of the major interests in which I did have while I was there at the university, just kind of going around to the little shops and looking for some cool t-shirts. And when I initiated the Brush Your T-shirt show, it was all about me actually highlighting some of the shirts in which I actually had in my repertoire. And I was actually joking around at one point. Of course, I had this shirt in this particular design, uh, which was created by a friend of mine down in Atlanta, by the brother by the name of St. Louis. Last name is St. Louis. What's his first name? I can't think of his first name. Uh, is it Arville? St. Louis. But in any case, so the idea was just for me to sit back and have conversations and discuss and talk about my favorite t-shirts, this being one. And basically, this particular shirt represents the iconography of my world record time of 46.78 seconds. So, for those of you who can decipher what the iconography is on the t-shirt, let me sit up straight. So it's basically, came out of that particular field. One of the major interests in which I've had over the years has always been, as a kid, has always been collectibles. I remember one of the first things I started collecting were action figures, actually, GI and also GI Joes, but basically toys. At that particular time, when you had GI Joes, they had created multiple GI Joes, so you would actually go around and collect the different GI Joes. Another collectible that I did have while I was growing up, let me set this thing up right, was thermostats and lunch boxes, the tin or the galvanized tin lunch boxes in which we used to carry back in the 70s to go back and forth to school to carry our lunch. And I had a good friend of mine named Darnell. He was an avid comic book collector. And he would collect comic books, and he kind of turned me on to the comic book collection piece. But I was really into the uh, the lunch boxes. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. Lunch boxes. So I remember some of the lunch boxes that I did collect were the $6 Million Man was one of them. Spider Man was another one. I think I may have had an Incredible Hulk lunchbox as well. Uh, but that kind of was my little idea of what certain things I like to collect. Another thing in which I was into collecting at the time were LED watches, the old school LED watches. Those were really peculiar to me at the time, so I would collect those as well. Uh, Over the years, when once I got gotten older, uh, I started kind of watching a lot of the things in which friends of mine would collect, and even some of the things that I did collect at one point in time. I had a pretty large African art collection at one point in time when I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I had some very huge pieces that I really love. A lot of Sanufu statues, Dogon Mask, Jawadas, all that those sorts of things are really cool. Um, but over the years, those things have dissipated. I lost them in storage and all that sort of things. But I've always been an avid person who enjoyed collecting. I had a good friend of mine who he would collect actually the front pages of major New York newspapers. He would collect whenever there was a crazy article on the New York Post or the New York Daily News. He would get copies of that particular newspaper on that morning, and he over the years had compiled a great collection of those particular things, and he had some really great ones with some crazy covers on it of politicians throughout the city, of individual celebrities and all, and those sort of like sort of individuals, and I thought that was really cool. Um, but me dabbling in the collecting, uh, it became a cool little habit. But of course, I got a little ADD at times, so certain things I just kind of like fell off. But obviously, these in this day and age, um, folks are obviously into collecting sneakers, and that's been since that Jordan came out. That's been very popular shoe to collect over the years, and it's so funny because I remember um, even when I would when I had opportunity to wear uh, collections of Nikes, my most popular Nike that I enjoyed rocking at the time were Air Force Ones because I played ball in high school, and that always had got me a pair of Air Force Ones, and I never really gravitated toward the Jordans like my peers were. To me, that was really truly associated with a lot of guys who was out there getting money in the streets because only way you could really afford Jordans if your mom or your parents paid for them for you, or you went to the streets and you sold a little this or that or dabbled and did this, that, and the other. And this is back in the '80s. That was how I saw a lot of guys earning some chips so they can buy their Jordans. I really was never gravitated toward the Jays. However, um, one of the things that I do remember was in 1993. This is right after the Olympics in '92. The following year, I ran actually for Nike, and so of course I would get all types of shipments of Nike gear, Jordans. But I remember in '93, the following year, it was a huge ad campaign in which they did for the Air Force. No, not excuse me, not the Air Force, but the Air Max '93. So there was actually a small campaign, published campaign of myself and some '93 Air Max ads that they have, and I actually got copies of some of the photographs that they kind of paired me with William Burroughs, who was a crazy writer um, who used to hang out with Kerouac and the Beatnik crew back in the late '50s and in the '60s. And I thought that was pretty dope, making that connection with me and this quirky guy, William Burroughs, that is. Uh, so our since the advent of Instagram, I've been able to kind of follow different uh, individuals who or folks who just kind of have certain interests in all things Air Max or Air Force Ones or Jordans. And there's a few different people out there who really follow Air Maxes, and I find myself from time to time surfing through IG and kind of connected with individuals who got that '93 Air Max fetish and sending them actually the print ad of a portion of that campaign in which I had actually participated in with Nike back in the day. So that was pretty cool. So it kind of makes me a sort of a fixture in pop culture with that association with William Burroughs and the Beatniks, as well as the sneakerheads that are out there. So one of the main things which I may end up doing is start collecting Air Maxes, '93 Air Maxes, and get me some different colorways to rock them, just so I can solidify myself in pop culture. Uh, but getting back to me starting the brush your t-shirt show. Like I said, I was in my bathroom at KU Leuven and I was brushing my teeth. I had my camera phone on, and I just started talking about my T-shirt and cracking jokes, and I was just going through my thoughts of things that were funny. My transition coming from Georgia to Belgium, and the things that I went through and experienced while I was there in Atlanta, and then coming overseas and still having these new experiences. So uh, part of the experiences was to discuss and talk about collecting T-shirts. Getting back to Brush Your T-shirt show. Uh, and from that, I recall there's all kind of cool little things. So now they folks are collecting everything. I've always been an avid individual of artwork, especially contemporary art and modern art, as well as pop art. I've actually wrote an article or two about pop art and pop culture that I'm going to post on my website once I get it up and going. You can go there and take a look at it. I actually posted on one of my LinkedIn um, I guess avatars that I do have on LinkedIn. You can go there and find it. That I discussed the connection between sports and art. So that was a pretty cool article that I ended up writing. Um, but uh, I really enjoy the fact that we can find things that we can be fond of and collect over the years. Like individuals collect those new era baseball caps, and like over the years, you see all the different collaborations in which uh, different entities do with New Era and all the big shoe companies, not just shoe companies as well, but different designers, organizations, sports teams. It's all these partnerships that are done just for that fan base that really go out there and collect things such as the baseball caps, the fitteds, and the snapbacks. Um, but the cool thing is you have so many new and different individuals and artists who are coming up with their own set of ideas and creating their own product line when it comes to those sort of things that we involve ourselves with attire. So um, the different individual things in which I'm going to be posting up on my Brush Your T-shirt show will be things that I'm totally interested in, that I do like. Recently, um, as recent as today, I got in the mail. I had ordered me a Tame One Cheech Wizard action figure. And for those of you who don't know about Tame One was a rap artist and a graffiti writer, uh, and a bomber tagger artist out of New Jersey. But he was with this crew called Artifacts. I remember, in the '90s, listening to the Artifacts and bumping to their hip hop. I was delighted to find out, dig deep into his background as a graffiti artist, since I'm always into urban art, street art, and graffiti, and those sorts of things. But unfortunately, we lost him, I believe, last year. But he did a group got with his estate, and they did a action figure for him, one of their first toys that they created, along with my man Delicious Peter, I believe, out of the UK, um, and and I guess Mark Bodie, uh, Cheech Wizard, the creator, the son of the creator Cheech Wizard, and they created this action figure along with the Cheech Wizard uh, character, who was Tame One's favorite character, I guess, to tag around and on cars and walls and all that sort of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. When I saw that the collaboration was commencing on IG and they were uh, selling the figures, I jumped on it real quick and purchased one of 50 figures that were created in this, obviously this limited edition selection. So this afternoon, I actually got mine in the mail. Uh, I went and picked it up. Unfortunately, well, unfortunately, but fortunately, that when they had put it together, they used a glue gun to kind of set the figure inside the box and all that. But upon this international trip, it got dislodged within the container which it was in, so the pieces were lying down as opposed to being upright. But I was fortunate enough to open up the package, set it, and glue it back, and present it. I got it somewhere in my background. I guess it's if I duck my head a little bit, you might be able to see it behind me. Uh, but I'm one of 50 individuals who were able to collect to purchase that brand new piece. Um, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to collect some more. One thing about me, when I see things that I do like, um, I actually invest in it, in those sort of things. If you look at my background, you actually would see a picture of who's that C, CP Parker or C Parker. This this poster right here with the brother with the afro and the eyes. When I first saw that artwork, I was really connected to it, and I didn't waste any time to order me a print online. Spend a little chips. I figure I might as well invest in certain things like that. Makes me feel good. You should see some of the things that I invested in over the years that I no longer even have to this day. However, but I really enjoy those items that I do invest in. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, um, the, uh, the print behind me, as well as the uh, Cheech Wizard Tame One. I'm gonna lean over to the side. You might be able to see it right above my head. behind the action figure in the box itself. So that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna cut it off right there. I didn't really want to go too long with the conversation. Uh, I'm really surprised that there's not a lot of background noise because typically my stepson on the other side, he's playing video games, so screaming and yelling. And when I always decide to come in here and do something like this, so I really appreciate having my little quick audience. I know the setup isn't great, but it's pretty comfortable. Uh, and I'll be getting back to you guys a little bit later in the day or in the evening or some other time. Take care.